Ladies and gentlemen, here's your second stimulus check, enhanced unemployment payment, and EIDL grant update for August 23rd, 2020. In this video, I'm going to tell you which states FEMA just awarded with the grant to pay for the $300 a week boost up that President Donald Trump mandated through his executive order on August 8th, what House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and the White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows just said on the Sunday morning shows in regards to the next stimulus package, and I want the full disbursement of the $10,000 economic injury disaster loan advance to all legitimate small business applicants, ladies and gentlemen. So, FEMA has just awarded 4 more states with the grant to pay for the $300 a week boost up and enhanced unemployment benefits. Those states are, I'm going to go ahead and list all of them: Arizona, Colorado, Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri, Utah, New Mexico, Idaho, Montana, Oklahoma, Maryland, Texas, Kentucky, Michigan, North Carolina, California, Alabama, Indiana, Massachusetts. And the new states, or the states that FEMA has just awarded with the grant, are Vermont, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Rhode Island. So now we have a total of 23 states that FEMA has awarded with the grant to pay for the $300 a week boost up and enhanced unemployment benefits. Out of these states, 3 of them have committed to paying regular state unemployment benefits plus the $100 a week benefit that constitutes the share in the original mandate the states were to contribute to make it a total of a $400 a week boost up. $100 coming from the state, 25%, and 75% the $300 a week boost up funded by the federal government. As you know, the White House went ahead and walked back, retracted that mandate, and stated that as long as a state is paying out at least $100 a week to a UI recipient, that recipient would qualify, the state would qualify to pay out the $200 a week boost up, ladies and gentlemen. Those 3 states are Kentucky, Montana, and West Virginia. So again, they'll pay out the state benefit, which may be $200, $300, $400, whatever it is, plus the $100 a week funded by the state, and $300 a week boost up funded by the federal government. Yesterday, I listed a number of states that were seeking funding through this program. Nonetheless, as of right now, I'll just make it short and sweet. Only South Dakota has outright declined seeking funding through this program. The governor released a statement finding that they have recovered over 80% of their jobs, unemployment rate is dropping in that state, therefore the state does not need it. Every other state in the union is either undecided as to whether to apply for the program or applying for the program. So that just makes it short. Now, as you know, President Donald Trump, he appropriated $44 billion from the Disaster Relief Fund managed by FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, in order to fund the $300 a week boost up in payments. This program costs around $9 billion, ladies and gentlemen. Therefore, $9 billion to $44 billion, it equates to about 4 to 5 weeks of payments of the $300 a week boost up. Just keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. And Arizona is the only state to have reported to have paid out the $75 million to 250,000 people on a jobless rolls. Nonetheless, the states that I listed, they should start to pay out that fund very shortly. You'll start to receive, if you qualify for this program, you will receive payments retroactive dating back to August 1st. So you get the first 3 weeks of payment in a lump sum, and I guess the remaining 4 to 5 weeks, because once this fund is exhausted, FEMA will conclude the program. Unless through an executive order they decide to use the rest of the fund because there's over $70 billion in this fund, or Congress passes legislation in order to replace this program with something signed into law that enacts the payments of $400, $500, $200 a week, whatever it is that Congress decides, or whatever it is the administration goes ahead and signs into law to go ahead and disperse funding to people on unemployment insurance. Okay, so you know that Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, she stopped summer vacation short, and she had Democrats reconvene in order to vote to subsidize the post office with a $25 billion cash infusion. The post office requested $75 billion in the spring. $25 billion in emergency cash infusion, $25 billion to modernize its operations so it could operate more efficiently, and another $25 billion in loans. So the House passed that bill yesterday, and Nancy Pelosi, she went on CNN's State of the Union. Jake Tapper asked her if you can go and stand alone, lining up a vote to subsidize the post office for $25 billion, why can't you go in on something such as enhanced unemployment insurance or support for the American people through the stimulus checks, etc.? She stated that the administration is not giving her everything else that the Democrats want and supposedly what the American people want. Unless we are here, we're talking about the stimulus check, the second stimulus check, enhanced unemployment benefits. You clearly want that. A report that I cited yesterday on CNBC and Change Research found that 62% of swing state voters want the extension of the $600 a week enhanced unemployment supplement funded by the federal government. Yet, President Donald Trump, he came in at $300 a week because he's gotten it from the disaster relief fund. As I said yesterday, he should have gone in hard, $600 a week. You could definitely afford it. It would have been for a shorter amount of time, but then you would have put the pressure on Congress in order to come back and replenish the fund. So basically, Nancy Pelosi, she stated in this interview that she wanted to ensure that she got more money for schools, that the plans that the administration was calling for didn't have more money for schools, didn't have more money for testing and for tracing and for other things that had to deal with the virus that she needed. Nonetheless, she went in piecemeal on this deal, which is bonkers to me. And a number of people in the comments have contested my frustration with this issue because, oh, she's playing chess, or listen, it doesn't matter. You need support for the American people right away. She's talking about the postal service is an emergency. This is an emergency, ladies and gentlemen. They need to do something now in order to get payments out to people at $600 a week. As you saw, initial jobless claims spiked by 135,000 in 1 week's time, ladies and gentlemen. 1.106 million initial jobless claims this week. That went up from 971,000 initial jobless claims the week before. Why? Because people have less money to spend. That's less revenue for businesses. They have to start laying people off. That creates a huge problem. One of the key reasons why Nancy Pelosi stated that she would not agree to doing a standalone bill for unemployment or for stimulus checks. I'm going to read it for you. Read you the quote real quick so you could. All the president wants is the one thing he wants is his name on a letter to go out with a check in it. He doesn't care about the rest of it, about the virus funding, about the state and local, which really fund our schools. So he doesn't want the disbursement of the stimulus checks to be a marketing ploy for the president. So she's holding out as much as possible. Nonetheless, in this particular case, people who are specifically looking at the issues and the way that Congress and the administration are exchanging correspondence and are talking to each other in order to reach an agreement and ultimately, ideally, come to a deal, we see the problems. We see how everybody's at fault right here. We see how everybody, because everyone makes an excuse why the other party doesn't act on anything. There's political clashing involved. The president doesn't do. Why doesn't he step up to the plate and go directly out to the Congress and speak to them and see exactly what it is that they want? Because I think ultimately, this is what the Democrats think as well, that his job is on the line. They must see everything at a big picture. And in a way, you got to think about it. If you look at the big picture of how things are going down, things are looking bad, ladies and gentlemen. For people who are not, the people with whom we speak, and we're talking right here. I'm speaking to you and we deal with these issues specifically. Second stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment, economic injury disaster loan advance. The majority of the people, they don't geek out on these issues the way that we do. They look at the big picture. You got the pandemic, you got short-term economic crisis, you got long-term economic crisis ahead, you've got civil unrests, the president beats people down in front of the White House. So I think that the Democrats see it as he's gone, because ultimately people are going to see that it's all the president's fault. Everything happened on his watch. There's like a quarter-mile long line on a food pantry yesterday, according to the New York Post. They posted the pictures on it. People on food pantries, people that never had a need to go through this, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, the stock market is at all-time highs, and I guess that's why they're also dragging their feet, because both sides on the aisle, both lawmakers, Democrats, GOP, the administration, they all benefit by having these public companies line their pockets. You see how I told you how rocket companies pays out money to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle? So they just keep on dragging their feet with this. So I think they're just holding out. I think they could give them, they think that they have the luxury of just holding out and saying, no, we're not going to move on the next round of stimulus because he's going to make it a marketing ploy and he's going to lose regardless because of everything that's going down. But it may be a false sense of security. It may be a false sense of security, ladies and gentlemen, just like in 2016 when Democrats thought that they had the election in the bag, and what happens? Trump took them down. He beat that gluteus promptly, swiftly. Understand what I'm saying? The problem is that the president, he's the one that gets all the light. He gets all the attention. Things go wrong, he's the one. As a matter of fact, the only reason that most of us know who Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is because of all the insults he's hurled at him, ladies and gentlemen. Nancy Pelosi needs to pay President Donald Trump a public relations retainer on a monthly basis. That's the only reason that she's getting this much light, this much attention. Understand what I'm saying? And she's in the bluest of the blue states, California, so she figures her seat is in place, regardless of whether all these Democrats are urging her to move on the next round of stimulus. Mark Meadows, he went on the news programs this morning, and he was talking about, listen, if we agreed to 5 or 6 things, let's go ahead and move on it. Piecemeal, standalone, which makes sense. Nonetheless, the other party's not trying to deal with it. Mark Meadows went to the White House yesterday, and he tried to speak to Nancy Pelosi. He started to speak to a few Democrats in order to try to gain some traction and cut through this impasse and pass a deal. He couldn't get through to anybody. So Democrats are in the place where they feel comfortable. I know that there are a number of Democrats that are facing re-election and they are under pressure because as I told you before, Anthony Brindisi from the 22nd District from New York, he said, don't send me home until we pass the next round of stimulus. If he doesn't get re-elected, his term ends on January 3rd. That's the only thing that makes these people move, ladies and gentlemen, when their jobs are on the line. With the Postal Service, that's probably what they see. When the job's on the line, ladies and gentlemen. And President Donald Trump, he thinks that he could talk his way out of all of this in this particular time when he should have gone in $600 a week. I'll keep saying it, ladies and gentlemen. I respect all of your opinions. He could have funded it at $18 billion a week. He could have funded it for about 3 weeks if he exhausts the entire fund. If he exhausts the entire fund, ladies and gentlemen, then Congress is under pressure to go ahead and replenish the fund. Understand what I'm saying? They have to replenish the fund. He went standalone. Now, listen, I saw Lincoln yesterday. I have to verify this to see if it's true. Just fact check the movie. But this is what happened. I'll just let you think about this real quick. When President Lincoln and his Republican colleagues were out pushing for abolition, for the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the key thing that was stopping people, Republicans and Democrats, from supporting the abolition of slavery is because they did not want to consider that black people, that African American people were equal to white people, to Caucasians. So what they found, nonetheless, there were several lawmakers that supported ending slavery. They just didn't want to give black people the right to vote. They didn't want to consider black people as being equal to white people. So they were taunting one of the congressional leaders, one of the Republican congressional leaders, into saying that he thought that white people were equal to black people. But he said no. He said he just thinks that they're equal under the law and that they should just end slavery. So, and President Lincoln, he went ahead and spoke to a lawmaker, and he told them, and in the movie, I mean, I'm going to verify this, and I'll see if this actually went down, but he basically, a lawmaker told him that he would not support abolition of slavery. He would not vote for adding the amendment, 13th Amendment to the Constitution to end slavery. And then President Lincoln, he told him about how he saw a boat, I think it was floating down the Mississippi, and it was on its en route to sell some slaves. And he said that he hated it, and that his father moved him away from that because his father hated it, but not as much as he did. And then the congressperson agreed with him. Yes, I hate it. Nonetheless, are you considering that we give black people the right to vote? And he said, no, we're not talking about that right now. We're not talking about that. We're just talking about ending slavery. Narrowly focusing on ending slavery. Because if he were to say, yes, he wants to give black people the right to vote, then that would have given that lawmaker an argument to say, No, I'm not with that. So I'm going to vote against the abolition of slavery. I'm going to vote against this amendment. Nonetheless, he focused on the standalone purpose of the amendment to end slavery. You could move on, and he moved on it little by little. Got shot for it. I mean, and look, to tell you the truth, we are still. He got to that piece, he took the first step. And as I was about to say, we are still. Let me just give you, let me tell you who I am. I have both Spaniard, European, Colombian African blood, Indian, Native American, Native South American blood in my body, ladies and gentlemen. And my appearance, I know that it has caused me to encounter challenges on this planet. When in a professional setting, I've worked with some of the biggest organizations on the planet. I was working on a team when I worked for the Nielsen company. I worked for the AOL company with Billboard. As I told you before, I worked for the 2012 presidential campaign. I worked with the Donald Trump organization before he got into politics, and I helped him raise several $1,000s, or helped the organization with which we partnered with the organization raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for Harlem charities. We are still encountering challenges. When I worked with the Nielsen organization, our whole team constituted minorities, and there was a big problem where you see how journalism was dying and everything. They weren't making as much money as they were supposed to be making. So I was the only person that knew how to operate social media and drive millions of views to the publications that Nielsen was managing at that particular point in time. So they broke our team up. My supervisor, she became a staff member, and she told me, I didn't even want to believe her, it's because we were minorities. And I noticed we were the only ones that got broken up, and they were finding ways to basically get rid of us, ladies and gentlemen. And the supervisor told me, black lady, she told me, listen, you should start looking for another job. I didn't do so because at the end of the day, I know how to operate the social platforms, Facebook, Dig at the time, Reddit, and all these other platforms to drive massive influxes of traffic to these publications. So I was generating hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars for these organizations. So they didn't want to let me go. Nonetheless, they took me out of my team. They put me on another lady's team. And once they sold the publications, it did lay me off. Nonetheless, the companies to which they sold the publications, they went ahead and hired me back, and that started my small business. Okay, so that's basically my story. So I know that there are challenges. There's a long way that we still have to fight in order to gain equality and the respect that every human being warrants, because all men are created equal, ladies and gentlemen. But if President Lincoln wouldn't have abolished slavery, wouldn't have been successful in abolishing slavery, imagine if it wouldn't abolish in the 20th century. We'd probably be working through the civil rights movement right now, ladies and gentlemen. We still got civil unrest, and we still have problems. You see what happened with George Floyd. You see what's happening with the protests. You see what's happening all over the place. We still have a number of challenges to overcome. Nonetheless, that one step allowed us to get to this point where we have made some progress. Ladies and gentlemen, we did have the first African-American president in history. So we have made some progress, ladies and gentlemen. So that said, why can't these lawmakers, why can't the administration move standalone, find compromise? Go ahead and look. This is where we agree. All right, let's not deal with this part right now. Let's deal with the support for the American people. More rounds of stimulus checks, recurring ideally. Well, I know that they're not going to come to that, but at least the next round of stimulus checks. The enhanced unemployment rate, the enhanced unemployment payments at $600 a week. Even you have to tie it to economic conditions where the payment drops to $100 while the percentage point of unemployment rate drops by 1% and ending at 5%, ladies and gentlemen. Do something. Get support. Everything to which we agree. More money for small businesses through PPP, through the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance, which is what I want for every legitimate small business, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I want, we all demand that you provide the support for small businesses. 31.7 million strong. Do not forget it, constituting 99.9% of all businesses in the United States. They can't let us fail, ladies and gentlemen, because that's where you see the deteriorating economic indicators as a result. Jobless claims will continue to spike as long as they do not provide that support. So they need to learn how to play nicely amongst each other and do what it is you need to do. And the buck stops at the president's desk, ladies and gentlemen, in the Oval Office. Because that is who everybody sees. As soon as he speaks, makes news. As soon as one of his representatives speak, it makes news. Again, he's the one that's given fame to all of these lawmakers. To Speaker Pelosi, it's the only reason she has become relevant, because he's insulted her so much, right? And likewise, vice versa. But not even vice versa, because she may speak, people don't even know. You ask anyone on the street, who's President Donald Trump, they know who that is. I bet you run into 10 people, and you'll probably, maybe less than half will know who Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi is, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? That's how it is. That's where it's at today. So I want you to go out and find these people on Twitter mainly. I like Twitter because it's a public forum. Go ahead and tweet them out. And through private messaging as well. You could go ahead and locate anyone you want to locate. Any congressional representative first on govtrack.us/members/congress/map. You can go ahead and type in your address, click find my district, and you'll be able to find your congressional representatives. Tweet out President Trump. You can find him by typing site, SITE, :twitter.com. Hit the space bar. This is on Google, and type in Donald Trump. It'll go ahead and produce, the results will generate his profile on the search results, and go ahead and tweet at him. You want your economic injury disaster loan, you want the $600 a week boost up. $600 a week boost up. It was able to find funding for it. The disaster relief fund, you could probably find it elsewhere. He took, $6 billion from the military to go ahead and build the wall that he promised. So he could do this. He can get the American, and the support for the American people is something that we need. It's a lot more essential than building a wall, ladies and gentlemen. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. So go ahead and let them know that you demand the monetary ammunition you need to save this country, to maintain our position as the greatest democratic experiment known to man. If they did it in the 19th century, ladies and gentlemen, you have to be just as historic in the year 2020. And I say that, I direct that to every public official and everybody who is watching this, ladies and gentlemen. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America and everybody else on this planet. Talk soon.